Commissioner Fielder, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, thank you. Good morning. This hearing is called to order. I am James Brown. I'm Chairman of the Montana Public Service Commission. I represent District Number 3, which is the southwest portion of Montana. I am the presiding officer for this hearing this morning. With me in the Bollinger Room today are Vice Chair Johnson, Commissioner Pinocci, Commissioner O'Donnell, and then Commissioner Fielder is participating via Zoom. Commissioner Fielder,
Yes,
are you with it? All right, thank you, Commissioner Fielder. Just a reminder to shut your cell phones off. If your cell phone does go off, you'll owe the commission donuts. So you don't want to do that. Commission attorneys Lucas Hamilton and Zach Regala will be advising the commission this morning and through this hearing. Commission staff are also present via Zoom. This hearing is being transcribed by court reporter from Lazowski Court Reporting. Would you like to introduce yourself? Not Megan. That's a joke from a prior hearing. For the record, the time is now 9:01 a.m. The date is Wednesday, July 7th, 2021. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this hearing is being conducted mostly in person, but with an option for parties, witnesses, and counsel to appear via Zoom. As noted, the commission and staff are appearing from the Bollinger Room of the Montana Public Service Commission located in Helena, Montana. This is the scheduled public hearing at docket number 2021.03.043 involving the application of DI Garbage Disposal of Bozeman LLC, doing business as Redbox Plus of Bozeman, their application for public convenience and necessity. I will now take appearances of counsel. Please introduce yourself and who you will represent. I will start with the applicant's attorney. Okay. Can you spell your last name?
Mr. Chairman, could you please have them turn on their microphone?
Go ahead and reintroduce yourself, if you would, Mr. Jetty.
You bet. Mark Jetty, spelled Jette, of the Silverman Law Office.
Thank you, Mr. Jetty. And then for protester,
William Mercer, Holland and Hart for the protestant.
And Brianne McClafferty, Holland and Hart for the protestant.
okay. Is Mr. Stoffel going to appear?
No, he will not be here today.
Okay. I'll just note up front that recesses will occur at convenient times during this hearing. I would note that Commissioner Pinocchio will step out around 10:15 for about an hour, and he is excused for that time. It's my understanding that there's no request for public comment this morning. All right. With that being said, we can now move into the evidentiary hearing. Are there any informal questions or matters to bring up before we begin on the evidentiary hearing, Mr. Mercer?
Mr. Chairman, we would like to raise an issue if we may.
Sure, go ahead.
On the 28th of June, we filed a motion to eliminate covering 3 different matters. There was a response brief filed on the 3rd by the applicant. And we think that that obviously is now ripe for decision. We don't know if the commission wants to hear argument on it, but we believe that our position is well taken and we'd like to have the motion granted as given the relief that we requested in the briefing.
All right, Mr. Mercer, thank you for bringing that up. I was going to head there. One of my first questions was going to be if you wanted us to move to decision on that. This is the motion in limine is a weighty and substantive motion. I've spoken to the other commissioners. We would like to offer the parties the opportunity to speak to this motion if you so choose. If you waive off the opportunity to present oral argument on the motion, we will move to ruling on the motion. Mr. Mercer?
We'd be pleased to be heard, Mr. Chairman, if we may be.
Sure. I'll allocate 5 minutes to each side.
Well, I think just for starters, Mr. Chairman, if we kind of move backwards, I think that the response brief filed by the applicant really says it all. There isn't any law cited in that response brief, nor is there anything other than sort of a conclusory statement that we're trying to keep matters out of the record. But when you look at the substance of what we said in the briefing, it seems clear that we're entitled to the relief. First of all, the commission entered a procedural order and the commission said, we need to have certain things disclosed at a certain time. And we specifically sought information about the witnesses that the applicant intended to call. We didn't get any of that information in a timely fashion in a way that we could have actually deposed the main witness for the applicant on the questions that are probably going to be core here, including fitness and need, but particularly fitness. So we learned for the first time on the 23rd of June in the pre-hearing memorandum about a number of witnesses that had not been disclosed previously. And we don't think that, as the briefing indicates, we don't think that that comports with the procedural due process rights that we're entitled to as the protestant in this case. So we're happy to get into greater and more granular detail if you want to hear about it, but we think the paper's pretty well set forth the authority and the factual record. On the shipper witnesses, it says right on the face of the commission's form that those are merely essentially preparatory documents to say, as part of the application, these people have information regarding need. But on the face of the form itself, it says, if there's going to be a hearing, that person agrees to attend the hearing. And so those can't come into evidence even though they were part of the application. The only way there's going to be an evidentiary basis for the commissioner rule is if you have testimony from those shippers. And so the idea that they would come in is, I think, completely contrary to the process that the commission has established. So, and obviously the core argument also goes to data requests that were produced late in the process, and we believe we have the same sort of due process concerns with that as well. So I'll rest, but be happy to answer any questions the commission has.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, Mr. Jettie?
You bet. Can everybody hear me all right? Is the microphone on? Okay. To begin with, take a quick step back. We went through the discovery process. We both put out our data requests, and what we got from the other side were pretty much nothing but objections to everything and refusals to answer any questions, any of our discovery requests. And so we filed similar objections, thinking, if it's good for one side, it's good for the other side. And while we were waiting a decision on their discovery closed. And so between the time that discovery closed and we needed to file our pre-hearing memorandum, we discovered additional witnesses. So in an effort to provide the commission with as much information as you possibly could get to make a good decision on a possibly difficult issue, we disclosed all of the information we had. And rather than us trying to exclude information or keep information out, what you're seeing here from the other side is that's exactly what's happening. They're trying to exclude anything that might support our application. All we're trying to do is give you the information that you guys need to make a good decision. And so we ask that you include the information that we submitted, because that's what speaks to this application. That's what supports this application.
Mr. Merson, do you want to reply?
Very quickly, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, two things. Let me start with the idea that these are additional witnesses that were discovered late in the process. I refer you to page 2 of the pre-hearing memo. Many of these individuals are people that clearly the applicant knew about. So for instance, there are 3 different executives at Redbox Plus that we assume are all out-of-state witnesses, but clearly people that were known to the applicant at the time of the filing of the application. As we understand from the research we've done, they are a franchisee of Redbox, and they clearly knew that these, if they wanted to have these people heard at this hearing, we should have had a disclosure of them as witnesses in response to the discovery request. If you look at items A, B, and C, these are officers of Redbox, all family members, we believe, of the president of Redbox, including the president of Redbox. Again, not additional witnesses unknown to the applicant. These are all people that you would think would be very familiar with this. Also, I left out the chief security officer, who is the person identified in G as a witness. These are all people that should have been known and revealed early in the case, so we could have decided how to proceed with respect to each of them. On the question of what was appropriate in terms of the discovery process, we would disagree with the characterization that you've heard from counsel for the applicant. The discovery that was served on Republic were questions that we had previously served on Redbox, and we did not believe that the scope of those questions were appropriate given our role as opposed to their role, and that was why we interposed objections. There was also no attempt by Redbox to file a motion to compel. And that's probably because it wouldn't have been well taken given the scope of the discovery request. We did file a motion to compel, but as the commission knows, that led to disclosure of information on the 3rd of July, on the weekend of the 4th of July, and essentially one business day before this hearing commenced. So we disagree with the characterization. We think that what we produced was appropriate given the scope of the questions. And again, coming back to the beginning, you got to look at that response brief that Redbox filed in the motion eliminate, which doesn't set forth any legal basis or any factual basis on why we're not entitled to relief as we sought in this motion eliminate. So we hope that the commission grants relief.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mercer. Mr. Jetty. I think both of you well know, and the commissioners well know, that the presiding officer under our administrative rules has authority and discretion to rule on evidentiary and procedural matters. And in that vein, I'm going to break up my ruling and then the commission's ruling in 3 parts as to the response to this motion. So as a threshold matter, I would note that both parties objected to virtually every data response that was identified as potential evidence by the other party. I did read through all the discovery over the weekend. And I must confess, I'm a little bit disappointed on the material that was provided by both sides. On some data responses, both parties identified the response as potential evidence, yet one of the parties later objected to its omission. For example, AWS-015 was both offered and objected to by Republic, and virtually every data response from Republic was being offered and objected to by Redbox Plus. Between their pre-hearing memorandum and objections to pre-hearing memorandum, neither party has been particularly consistent in their position as to what is admissible and what should stay out. I appreciate Republic's argument about affidavits and the hearsay rule. However, I believe it is more appropriate to rule on hearsay objections as they arise. Accordingly, I will withhold ruling on the admissibility of any of the affidavits at this time and warn the parties that they must provide appropriate foundation for any affidavits they may try to admit. At that time, Republic may renew its objection and we will sort out the application of the hearsay rule and any exceptions on a case-by-case basis. But I note, Mr. Mercer, that your argument is well taken. Next, with respect to witnesses that were not disclosed in response to discovery. This is a weighty motion, as I noted at the top of my remarks. In fact, I consider it to be somewhat of a dispositive motion. And for that reason, I am waiving off my right to solely decide this issue. And I'm going to open this to the full commission decision on whether to grant the motion and eliminate to exclude the late identified witnesses by Redbox Plus. So I will make the motion to grant Republic's motion to exclude the late filed witnesses from testifying in this matter. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second the motion.
Okay, discussion. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My guess is to reconcile both statements is that Redbox should have known these people would be witnesses, and then on the other hand, the applicant saying that they were discovered. Tell me if I'm right on this thing. It would seem to me that discovery would be that in response to questions by Mr. Mercer, that it was then determined that it needed to have additional witnesses to properly answer those questions. Am I?
Exactly. I mean, that's just part of the process. This is a fairly compressed schedule, as you've seen. And as we were rushing toward today, we were trying to figure out the best way to present the evidence to you guys to give you the best information possible. And through those discussions and through our responses to the protesters, we determined that we should probably get our information together to provide these additional witnesses to make sure that you understood our application as best possible.
And Mr. Chairman, I think that's the proper role of discovery on this thing to bring up issues that need to be addressed. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mercer, did you want to respond to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Commissioner O'Donnell. I guess I want to just walk through the chronology. So we served data requests seeking information on who the applicant would call as witnesses on the 13th of May, and they responded in a timely fashion, but they didn't disclose any witnesses. So that's the 13th of May, and the responses came on the 4th of June. We got nothing specific to the existence of these witnesses from the 4th of June until the date of the pre-hearing memorandum, which was past the cutoff period for us to do any discovery. And that's what led to the motion to eliminate. So when in our view, the rules of civil procedure squarely say when you serve a data request, you're entitled to an answer. And we're entitled, in order to understand what the proof is going to be, they have an obligation to say, here are who our witnesses are, and then we can decide whether we want to depose them. So the idea that they discovered this and then told us about it at the end of discovery within 2 weeks of this hearing date just doesn't comport with the way, even in a compressed schedule, this is supposed to work. And so when applicants do that, whether they're doing it intentionally or not, they're precluding the protestant from trying to figure out on questions of fitness, let's figure out how this entity is going to claim they're fit. If they don't disclose those witnesses, then we have to operate under the assumption that they're not going to be called. We don't need to try to guess what they might do at the 11th hour. We're entitled to have those answers up front. So we didn't learn about this in discovery. We learned about it after discovery had closed, only because there was a pre-hearing memorandum at a point where we couldn't do anything because discovery had closed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Fielder?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Mr. Mercer that Redbox has failed to respond timely and provide timely information. I also agree with Commissioner O'Donnell that full and complete information is pertinent to all parties, including the applicant, the contestant, and the commission itself. Can I ask a question of our legal counsel, Mr. Chairman, please?
Of course.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Rogala, it's my understanding that in the past, the commission has interpreted transportation docket deadlines as deadlines that the applicant may waive. Is that correct?
Chair Brown, Commissioner Fielder, depending on the deadline, absolutely. So what deadline did you have in mind?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Rogala, it just seems that the applicant has had a difficult time with the compressed deadline, as they so stated. And I want to know if they can move to postpone the hearing and the decision so that there's more time for all parties to have the information before us, so that, that the contestant can argue and the applicant can argue based on full and complete information, and the commission can consider that full and complete information. Is the applicant able to postpone their request or the time frame, the statutory time frame for a decision, to allow this information to come forward and allow all parties to have ample time to review it?
Again, Chair Brown, Commissioner Fielder, if I'm looking at 69-12-321, that sets a 60-day deadline where we have to have a hearing after a receipt of a protest or a hearing request. And how we've typically interpreted that is that it's up to the applicant to waive it. So I think your characterization is fair, that they have the right to do so. It's up to them, obviously, to file a motion to postpone or make an oral motion, since we're sitting in the same room together. There is a competing concern here that we're sitting here in the hearing room, and there's some, economizing of resources that, are not a small issue to consider. But I think your interpretation of their ability to postpone the hearing based on waiving that deadline is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to oppose your motion because I just feel it's very important for all parties to have full and complete information to the extent possible. And this just continuous objecting to one another, it's like it's not a good way to make a decision. I think we should get full and complete information and hear arguments based on their substance. So I would encourage the party to request a waiver of the deadline so that we can have more time to get this worked out.
Thank you, Commissioner Fielder. Additional discussion on the motion to grant the motion in limine to exclude certain witnesses from testifying today. Vice Chair Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Many of you have heard me say in the past that this commission, with regard to its decisions, is tightly constrained by that pesky darn thing called the law. And while I absolutely adamantly agree with the concepts expressed by Commissioner O'Donnell and Commissioner Fielder that transparency and complete access to information is critically important, that does not change the fact that everything that I have been presented with regard to Republic's motion indicates that the law would dictate that we grant the motion. And Mr. Chairman, I believe as much as I want to see this proceeding go forward and want to see everyone have their full day in court, if you will, we're obligated to do so under the rules, administrative rules that we function under, Mr. Chairman. So I will support your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Additional discussion? Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yeah, I would like each of the council to comment on exactly what Commissioner Fielder has brought up. I would hate to have a final decision made on the application based upon strict adherence to procedural rules and formulaic type of things, because that doesn't address the issue itself of whether or not the public would be served well by the admission of a new participant in the marketplace. So based upon, Mr. Mercer, your motion here, at what point would the commission be able to gain control of all the facts of the matter? If we grant the motion, then basically it seems to me Redbox Plus has no witnesses. They have no case on the whole thing. In which case that I would foresee us denying the application based upon insufficiency, not based upon adequacy or competency or anything else like that. And that Redbox Plus would then resubmit the application. But that's a long and arduous process. Is there any way that we can accomplish the work of the public to look at public need on this whole thing, at the same time accommodating your objection?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner O'Donnell. A couple of things on that. The first one is, I don't think we would agree with the characterization that there would be no witnesses available to testify pursuant to what was produced in discovery and what was in the pre-hearing memorandum. So specifically, shipper witnesses were disclosed as part of the application, and they were disclosed in the pre-hearing memorandum and in response to the data requests. And so the issue is really the scope of who could be called. Our motion would not eliminate all witnesses. It would certainly take a significant bite out of the witness list. I concede that. But I think it is not accurate to say that there couldn't be witnesses that you would hear today. Now, obviously, we would potentially, we'd have to see how the proof would come in. It would be much more limited than what the applicant wants. But I channeling what Commissioner Johnson said, the statute says that these need to come to ripeness before the commission in a certain amount of time, and that the commission has to issue an order within a statutory timeframe. And that's why the commission puts these on an expedited timeframe. So the problem here is that the applicant has failed to meet the timeframe. And I think my concern about the opposition to the motion is that it essentially says we have to play by the rules as the protestant. We have to serve discovery in a timely fashion. We have to answer all the data requests. We have to be ready to have our witnesses here and marshal our evidence when you set the hearing.
Mhm.
And if today we vacate the hearing, we've incurred a bunch of costs to get people here. And the opposition to the motion is based upon the fact that the applicant failed to comply with your order. And so I guess I understand your concern that you want to reach a conclusion on the docket, and you think that you should have a full amount of information, that the applicant should be able to essentially present whatever it wants to support that. But that just then kind of throws the rule book out the window. And so, and I, if we need to get into it, we can talk at length about how we tried to get the applicant to kick this down the road. The applicant was insistent, and I think counsel for the commission will be able, Mr. Hamilton or Mr. Rogala will be able to say, we were in no hurry to bring this matter to a head. And it was the applicant that insisted, in fact, was quite frustrated that we were doing this in July instead of June. So earlier, we would have been happy to accommodate the schedule, any sort of an extension, but they were against that. So we have followed the rules in the order. And I think for the commission to then ignore the order is not only a problem in this case, but it's a problem precedentially, because this could happen any other time. And then you're set with people coming in and saying, well, we essentially want a continuance so we can reopen discovery and start this process all over again, which, obviously those are the commission's rules. And, but it seems like it's inappropriate to force a party to comply and then say to the party that didn't comply, we'll let you start over again.
Mr. Chairman, please.
I'm going to give Mr. Jetty the opportunity to address that if you would like.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner O'Donnell, I appreciate the opportunity to respond. I appreciate that the protesters have a $26 million litigation budget and can engage in all kinds of legal wrangling and file objections and try to delay the process as much as possible. I represent a man and his wife who are trying to start a small Montana business. They don't have the legal resources to keep doing this. They need to get their business up and running as soon as possible. This is a small Montana business that is not going to affect the protesters in any meaningful way. And so all we are trying to do is, in the most expeditious way possible, is provide you with the information that you need to make a good decision.
So we've gone far afield, I think, on this. Right now, before us is my motion to grant the motion in limine as to excluding certain witnesses from testifying today. There's been a second on that motion. Now I'm going to speak to my motion. I oppose any continuance of this matter. Today we are here. Commission resources have been used, party resources have been used. We had a statutory deadline. All the parties are appearing at this point in time. I think it's prejudicial, frankly, to everybody for us not to move forward with this proceeding today. I would say one unfortunate consequence of the short statutory timeframe allowed for processing these applications is we do not have excess time to sort through drawn out discovery disputes and Class D matters. I'd note for the record that, again, as Mr. Mercer pointed out, Redbox Plus has generally insisted on these proceedings and adhering as nearly as possible to the statutory deadline. We have gone out of our way at the commission, I think, to accommodate Redbox Plus and what they've requested in this matter. To meet statutory timelines, we have to rely on parties to provide forthright, timely responses to discovery. Failing that, we rely on parties to abide the deadlines set in the procedural order for protective orders and briefing. As Mr. Mercer pointed out, if we do otherwise today, we're setting terrible precedent for this commission in these types of cases, and I'm not inclined to do that. Redbox Plus did not provide forthright and timely responses to discovery, nor did it adhere to the procedural deadlines specified in the procedural order. While there may be circumstance and good cause to explain or justify such actions, and I am somewhat sympathetic, Mr. Jetty, that Redbox Plus refused to get an attorney for quite some time in this case, and that you were brought in on short notice, and I recognize that publicly. And so you are constrained by the actions of your client, but you are also constrained by the actions of your client if you follow. It's my belief that Redbox Plus has not demonstrated good cause in this case. Several of the witnesses identified in the pre-hearing memo but not disclosed in discovery are company officers and employees who were either known or knowable at the time Redbox Plus responded to discovery. I mean, these witnesses were well within Redbox's knowledge of who may testify at the time we started the discovery in these proceedings, which is why I'm not inclined to provide any leniency in this matters. So I have not seen good cause for failing to timely disclose those witnesses. So I'm going to support my own motion and to support the motion in limine, obviously. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Mr. Chairman, to the motion, I will support the motion because it is a matter of law. However, I did want to say that I'm entirely frustrated by this, is that it seems to me that the purpose of procedure is to facilitate matters, to protect the rights of parties. And I really hate to see that the law being used to frustrate instead of facilitate, which is exactly what I see happening here, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. I disagree with your assertion on that. I would say that the law and the procedural deadlines we set are designed to protect both parties to a proceeding. So, all right. I would note that if my motion is granted, this does not preclude Redbox Plus from bringing forward those shipper witnesses that were identified properly during discovery. And of course, there's always rebuttal witnesses if necessary. So all those in favor of the chairman's motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no.
No.
All right. Public's motion in limine as to excluding certain witnesses from testifying in this proceeding is granted on a 4-1 vote. So my final ruling as to exhibits, similar to the shipper affidavits, I'm going to withhold ruling on the motion in limine at this time, since the parties each objected to the admission of virtually every data response when another proposed to admit into evidence in this matter. There's no stipulated admission of exhibits, which is disappointing. So I'd expect each party to lay proper foundation for documentary evidence and exhibits at the time that they are offered. And then Republic may renew its objections at that point in time, and then I will consider the arguments at that point in time. I would note for the record that each of the parties has provided the commissioners in attendance with an exhibit binder, correct? And those are sitting on the dais at this moment. All right, so are there any other formal pre-hearing matters, such as requests to accommodate witnesses, stipulations, or any other evidentiary matters? Yes.
Chairman Brown, we would like to make an opening statement. I don't know whether that is on the agenda, but we would request to be heard on that.
Yes, when I call you up for case in chief, you may do that. Any other evidentiary? Or?
Would it be possible to take a quick 10-minute break now that our case has kind of been gutted, for me to kind of reassemble and reform that case just to make sure?
I think that would be
I don't
fine.
Violate.
Sure. I'm inclined to accommodate that request and understand the basis for it. All right, the time is now 9:35 a.m. We will go into recess. How much time do you need, Mr. Jetty, you think?
Just Give me 10 minutes, please.
I'll give you 15 minutes. So that would put us back at, I'll give you 14 minutes.
I'll
That
take
put
it.
us back at 9:50 a.m.
Thank you,
We
sir.
are off the record at this point in time.
Just for everyone to.
Commissioner Fielder, are you still on?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm here. I just had to unmute myself.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Time is now 9:50 a.m. I am putting the hearing in docket number 2021.03.043 back on the record. Where we had left off was discussing where we were sort of procedurally. There's no other item on procedural matters. Then we'll move to the opening statement by parties. Red Box, would you like to make an opening statement?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Jetty, go ahead.
First of all, thank you, commissioners, for your service to protect the interests of the Montana citizens who work with these regulated businesses, both large and small. My clients and I know that you sometimes have to make tough decisions on complicated issues of law and fact, and we recognize and appreciate your experience and appreciate your impartial consideration of this application. During this hearing, my clients and I hope to provide you with information to show that approving their application will not only benefit them, but approving it will also benefit the citizens of Montana generally, and at the same time, it will not hurt the protesters in any significant way. The information we hope to provide you today is to paint a picture of a mother and father from outside Bozeman partnering with their sons to attempt the American dream. They want to build a small, family-run Montana business that will provide services to two small but overlooked groups of Montanans. All we ask is that you give them a shot at the American dream. To prove that they deserve an opportunity to serve this small segment of the market, we hope to somehow present evidence that will satisfy the four elements necessary to overcome this protest. First of all, carrier fitness. These guys are ready, willing, and able to provide the services. Second, that there's a public need. As the Gallatin, Madison, and Park counties continue seeing explosive growth, the construction industry, among others, has a need for junk removal and on-demand roll-off container services. Number three, public need is not presently being met. After showing that my clients are ready, willing, and able to provide services that our growing community needs, we will next hope to show that this distinct segment of the market is presently being overlooked by current providers. For example, the protesters do not even provide junk removal services, and so that is no competition to them. Second, they do not provide on-demand roll-off dumpster services. Although they provide scheduled roll-off services, they're insufficient to meet current demand in a timely manner. Because there's an even more specialized market for on-demand roll-off services. Think about those events where time matters. Think about the folks in Florida right now where the apartment building collapsed. Well, they didn't have time to wait for a reservation to get their roll-off dumpsters. They needed them right now. And the same kinds of things have happened in Montana and can happen in Montana at any time. And so my clients will be in a position to serve that need. And last, number 4, there is no harm to the protesters. After we prove that my clients are ready, willing, and able to provide services the community needs that are presently being overlooked, we intend to show that by approving their application to serve this unmet need, you will not hurt the protesters because they don't even provide these services. And even if they did or wanted to, we will show that we're not even operating in the same league as them. And consider this Major League Baseball versus Little League. This is no threat of competition to these corporation. And so there really is no legitimate need to reject this application. For now, I'll leave it at that.
I will provide it now. Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Brown, Commissioners, we're before you today because DI Garbage Disposal, which will be referred to as Red Box Plus throughout these proceedings, a franchisee, has filed 2 applications to provide proposed services in Gallatin Park and Madison counties. Nothing in the record will demonstrate that Red Box Plus is fit to provide those services, and Red Box Plus cannot establish that there is a need for those proposed services. Red Box Plus's first application is an application to provide, and I quote, minimal roll-off services in a market where haulers are already providing those same services and servicing the needs of those communities. Redbox Plus's second application seems frankly duplicative to us. And they seem to be providing the same roll-off services with one additional service of what they're referring to as junk removal. From what we can tell, that is a proposed service to remove junk from a home or a business into a roll-off service, into a roll-off container. That is not a service that is regulated by the PSC, but the transportation then of that container to a disposal site is regulated, and that's why they're before you and need a permit for those services. So we see those 2 permits as being duplicative of one another for these proposed areas. The evidence will show with respect to both applications that Redbox Plus is not fit to provide these regulated transportation services. It will also show that there is no need for an additional service provider in Gallatin, Park, or Madison County. Republic is currently satisfying the existing need and can continue to satisfy the need as these communities grow. Allowing Redbox Plus to come into these markets and only service a minimal number of customers, a select few, will allow them to cherry pick the more profitable customers and will harm the current haulers, including Republic. And that will not be a benefit to the community. Redbox Plus has produced nothing in discovery that demonstrates it's fit to provide services. We've received no information of Redbox Plus's financial fitness. We've been provided nothing about the funds available for investment into the venture or working capital to sustain the company. We've been provided nothing to explain the costs of starting up this business. We've seen no business plan, nothing specific to this market, nothing specific to Montana, no plan for hiring drivers, no sufficient or specific safety programs, no market analyses. There's nothing quantifiable in terms of a market analysis to demonstrate demand or need for an additional service in these markets. Based on this evidence, or the lack thereof, as Redbox Fitness, we will ask the Commission to find that Redbox Plus cannot carry its burden on fitness. We will also ask the Commission to find that Redbox Plus cannot carry its burden of demonstrating a public need in these counties. I just explained that the record lacks any quantifiable market analyses to show an existing need in Gallatin Park or Madison County. There are existing haulers in those counties. Republic is not the only option for roll-off services in these counties. And the existing haulers are meeting the public's demand and providing these communities with a high quality and competitively priced services. We expect that if there's Redbox Plus witnesses here today, that they will testify about the growth in these communities in Gallatin Park and Madison counties. And this growth comes as no surprise to Republic. It frankly comes as no surprise to any of us in this room or anybody in Montana that understands what's going on in the Gallatin Park and Madison areas. Republic is tracking this growth, and it has grown its services to be able to provide what these growing communities need. It has the capacity to continue to grow, and it will continue to invest in these communities to be able to do so. Republic is a solid business partner to its industrial customers. You will hear from Republic witnesses today, and they will describe to you the company's dedicated customer service department and how that department ensures follow-up on customer inquiries and customer complaints. You will hear the fact that Republic has very few customer complaints when looking at their industrial line of business in the Bozeman division, which is what is at issue here today and with respect to these applications. You will also hear from Republic witnesses that the company has a dedicated group for construction clients that can service those clients' specific needs. And you will hear about Republic's service commitments. This is a standard that the company sets for itself to ensure that it's providing timely service to its customers. Republic has had approximately 7,000 service commitment opportunities for over the last 2 years. These are opportunities for Republic to provide timely service and meet its own high set standard. And they have met that self-imposed standard 95.5% of the time out of 7,000 opportunities. Republic knows the needs of the community. It has a sales force that's on the ground in this market. And that sales force is able to identify potential customers for these roll-off services, contacting them about their needs. Indeed, sometimes when Republic contacts these potential customers, they don't make the sale, either because that customer doesn't have a current need or that need is being serviced by one of the other haulers that are offering roll-off services. Republic doesn't ever have to refuse service to any roll-off consumers. It's actively seeking out those consumers, which demonstrates that there's not a need in this community. And as these communities continues to grow, Republic continues to invest in this market so that it can satisfy the need, offering a wide variety of services, wide variety of container sizes, and providing top-notch customer service. Since 2019, Republic has invested over $500,000 million into its Bozeman division. Redbox Plus, by its own admission, only intends to serve a minimal number of customers with roll-off boxes. It admits that it's not trying to be all things hauling to all people within these communities. Its goal, as stated, is to serve a select few, leaving the less profitable customers who still need a garbage hauler for Republic and the other haulers to take care of. You will hear from Republic witnesses how a competitor hauler who is allowed to come into the market, capture the most profitable customers, will impact Republic's current operations. Such a practice, which is sometimes referred to as cherry picking, will reduce Republic's economies of scale, and it could result in increased prices, particularly for rural customers. After Republic puts on its evidence, it will ask the commission to look at the standard in this case and factors that it applies to Class D applicants and determine that Redbox Plus has not demonstrated that it is fit to provide the proposed services in these communities. And also that there is no need for Redbox Plus to provide these services because the need is already being met by existing haulers. And finally, it will ask the commission to determine that allowing Redbox Plus into the market to service only a select number of customers would harm the existing carriers and not be a benefit to the community. As such, Republic will ask the commission to deny Redbox Plus's application.
All right. Mr. Jetty, as the attorney for the applicant, you may proceed with your case in chief. Do you have any witnesses that are present in the room?
Pardon me. Mr. Chairman, we have Shad Derifield, the CEO, waiting, and I would like to call him as a rebuttal witness. We just heard counsel for the other side say that Redbox Plus cannot establish its fitness. And so I would like to begin with Mr. Derifield to establish that we can establish that fitness.
A rebuttal witness, well, I'll just rewind this. A rebuttal witness would come properly in response to a witness presented by the protestant here. As the protestants have not put on any witnesses at this time, I will deny your request and we will revisit that issue.
Okay.
Should
Well, then we will, if okay with you, we will go ahead and proceed with the 3 witnesses that we're left with.
all right. Are they appearing via
Zoom, I believe.
Okay. Would you call your first witness, please?
Yes. Let's see. The first one, if he is available, John Remy. Can we pull him up on Zoom? How do we do that?
Mr. Remy, are you available?
I am.
All right, Mr. Remy, this is going to be a little bit awkward as you're appearing remotely, but I'm going to swear you in and take your word for it, Mr. Remy, that I'd ask you raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Remy. Mr. Jetty, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
Hey, well, why don't you go ahead and just start off and tell us, where do you live? What do you do for a living?
I live in Bozeman, Montana. I'm in construction industry.
Okay. And how would you use the services that Redbox Plus has applied for?
I'd be using it on site to dispose of debris and trash as needed. Also, I like the fact that it comes with a porta potty, which kind of gives me 2 options in one.
And so why do you believe that the existing providers are not meeting that need right now?
I'm having a hard time finding the supply and demand. It's hard to get one delivered, if at all, and if so, it's hard to get it on time, and the prices are really high.
And what has your experience been like with customer service?
It's 50-50. Sometimes they're on it, sometimes they're not.
And so would you encourage the commissioners to support this application?
I totally would.
Good. Thank you, sir.
I don't think there's enough demand, so having another one would not hurt the construction industry with having availability.
Do you have any other thoughts you'd like to share with the commission today?
Nope, that's about it. I think we need more of these things out there, so another vendor would be awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Cross-examination of this witness, Mr. Remy.
Yes, Chairman. Mr. Remy, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Great. What hauling services do you currently use today?
I have used L&L services. They're a little bit more available than Republic. Republic's just really hard to get a hold of. Sometimes you call, you're on hold for like 15, 20 minutes, and sometimes they'll answer, sometimes they won't.
What services have you ever received from Republic?
Personally, have not received anything yet because it's hard to get one from them.
Is it your testimony here today that you have contacted Republic Services to receive a service?
Correct. I have contacted them once or twice, but use them on hold for long periods of time.
And what is your need for a roll-off container? What would you be looking to, what size of container would you be looking to purchase or use?
It'd be 30 yards plus.
Do you know what services Redbox Plus is proposing to offer?
I don't know 100%, but they have offered or seen something of the nature of, the yardage that I would need with a porta potty attached to it, because I also rent porta potties as well from different vendors like TLC, Little Stinker, et cetera, et cetera. So having a combination in one way, one bill is kind of interesting to me.
And you don't know, though, whether Redbox Plus has containers over 30 yards, do you?
Have not really researched it, but I would assume they would.
And in your business, you would prefer a container that was over 30 yards in size, correct?
Not really. I've used at my shop. I currently have a 7-yard. I have rented 30 yards when I'm doing massive cleanups. So my yardage varies depending on the job itself.
How do you know the Darafields?
How do I know them personally?
Yes.
Yeah, through a mutual friend. I
And
heard
do you-
about that. I heard about this red box service coming into town.
Do you work for any businesses that collaborate with Darafield Investments?
I don't understand the question.
Have you ever worked for a business related to the Darafields?
As far as construction goes,
Any business?
I have done a job for them once,
And what was that job?
painting an exterior of a house, actually a fourplex.
And was that for wholesale painters?
Correct.
And you were asked to fill out an affidavit in this case, correct?
Correct.
And who asked you to do that?
Seth Thorson.
And do you also work with Seth Thorson in relation to wholesale painters?
At the time of the affidavit, no.
You have worked with Seth Thorson in relation to wholesale painters, correct?
I have worked for Seth Thorson in the past, and I have done a job with them currently that for wholesale. Yes.
One moment. Are you a current employee of Wholesale Painters?
No, I'm an independent contractor that subcontracts.
And what period of time have you been an independent contractor of Wholesale Painters?
What I say within the last month per se.
You've been, tell me the first time that you contracted with Wholesale Painters.
Within the last 30 days to do a fourplex for them.
Objection, Mr. Chairman. What's the relevance of this questioning? We're talking about the application, not his history, his work history.
Would you like to respond?
Certainly, Chairman. Wholesale Painters is one of the other businesses that is within the Darafield Investment LLC's portfolio. Redbox Plus is another one of those businesses in the portfolio. And so this line of questioning goes to establish bias of the witness, who is an independent contractor for Darafield Investments, one of Darafield Investments businesses.
Would you like to respond?
You bet. This is a small Montana community. This is, the folks that participate in these industries tend to work for and know everybody that is available that works in these industries. And so the fact that they know each other or have worked together is not all that unusual.
All right, I'm going to overrule that objection. I see it as a form of impeaching the witness, I presume, to establish bias. Please proceed.
Mr. Ribby, what counties do you have a need for roll-off services in?
Counties, Gallatin.
Only Gallatin.
So far, yeah, correct.
And you indicated that you had worked with Seth Thorson, the individual that asked for your affidavit in this case. Did Seth Thorson also work for wholesale painting?
I'm not 100% sure. At the time, I was subcontracting. I do subcontract work from Seth. I do contract a job from wholesale. I do subcontract from J by M. I do subcontract from many other people. So I'm an independent contractor that actually takes work from many builders, as well as other painters who need my help. So it's not rare for me to have done work for Seth. I just did a job for wholesale. I am basically all over town working for many different builders, as well as other painters who need one, either they're understaffed or don't have much experienced people. So I come in and subcontract jobs here and there, if that makes any sense.
Sure. And do you know that Seth Thorson is the business development manager of Darafield Investments, LLC?
I don't get too much involved in Seth Thorson's personal business or life, but I have heard that he's works for the company or does something with the company. I don't know what 100% what his job is.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on. Don't go anywhere.
Yep.
All right. Commissioners, this will be the time for questioning. Any questions from commissioners at this point in time? Commissioner O'Donnell?
Thank you, Mr. Remy. It was stated earlier that one of the questions is whether or not Red Box is fit to operate a successful business. Do you have any concerns about that? Obviously, when you're in business, you need to have vendors that you rely upon. Would you have any problem, any questions relying upon Red Box, being that they don't have any experience yet?
Objection, foundation.
I'm going to overrule that. And Commissioner O'Donnell is acting as the fact finder in this matter and is free to ask questions. Commissioner O'Donnell, do you need to repeat your question at this point in time?
Mr. Remy, do you need me to repeat that or?
I do not. No, I don't have any concerns because back in the day when L&L Site Services came on board, you know, they were new and actually they gave me a better service over Republic because I couldn't get a hold of Republic. And so for somebody being new, I don't have really any big concerns as long as they can do their services correctly. I don't think there's anything of concern of me not having experience. No.
Thank you.
I would note that my objection was based on Montana Rule of Evidence 614. Additional Rule of Evidence 614. Additional questions from commissioners?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Fielder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Remy, thank you for appearing today. You indicated that you have tried to get services from Republic and haven't been able to.
Yes, correct. Like I said, a lot of times when I do call, I mean, we're talking, we're going back years. I've called and I'm placed on hold for long periods of time where I just basically hang up and I'll try to call back again, put on hold, and then I'll just hang up. And then basically I would just run my stuff to the dump because I could not get the service from them. And then, like I said, when L&L Site Service came about, it was a lot easier, a lot more friendly, yada, yada, yada. So I started renting, roll-offs and dumpsters from them because it was just a little bit easier to get. As far as Republic goes, it's just, I just have not found that I got good customer service from them. A lot of times I'm hold. I'll call back and say, look, I've been put on hold. They say, well, let me put you on hold again. And so it comes a point in time where you just give up after being put on hold for so many times.
Thank you. So, Mr. Remy, why does that matter? I mean, you're in construction business. I actually can relate to that. Why is time of the essence when you're trying to obtain a service like that?
I don't really understand your question as far as time of essence.
Well, let me
Yeah, go
rephrase. What is the urgency of getting a service when you need it? I mean, can't you just wait for 15 or 20 minutes until they get back to you? I mean, what else do you have to do?
Well, I got a business to run. That's number one. Number two, I got a family to support. Three, I just can't sit and be on my phone for 30 minutes or 40 minutes or 50 minutes. I mean, if things go longer than 10 minutes, I think it's a little absurd. I understand people are busy, but when you call back every time, other things I got to do. I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, if you got a business to run and you have people that's working with you and you have a job going on, sitting in a vehicle for 15, 20, 30 minutes takes me 15, 30 minutes away from my job site.
I imagine as you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Okay. What is it that makes you feel that Redbox could provide the service you need?
Well, at the end of the day, as you guys know, they were in a business, a construction boom. And a lot of times, a lot of people, like you, especially with LL services and things like that, they're just, not readily available. And there's a lot out there. So having another company out here with the boom that we have, it would probably help our industry, meaning that we have many options. Secondly, like I said, with the porta potties, same thing. They're not hard to get, but it takes time, yada yada yada. So if you can get a combination of 2 and 1, that's what enticed me to actually, 1, sign the affidavit, 2, be on this Zoom, take me away from work, because I think a combination like that is needed in Bozeman. We don't have that combination, and I think something like that with 2 birds, 1 stone, I personally think is awesome. Because it keeps everything in one thing combined, and I think it'd make it a lot easier. Personally, just me.
Okay. I think I have one more question, Mr. Chairman, and for Mr. Remy, and that is, Mr. Remy, if you were to describe what you think it is Redbox is going to be offering, if you're going to describe that to someone else that never heard of them, how would you describe Redbox services and why you support them?
Well, what I explained to you, to have a 2 and 1. Makes it so much easier, so much cleaner. Secondly, the way that I see it,
I've never heard it before. Assume I've never heard anything about it before. What would you tell someone that never heard anything about them? What does this company do?
Well, the biggest thing that attracted me to this whole situation, I had a porta potty outside my shop because we had a sewer problem, and there's times that the wind blew it over. There's on job sites that you got porta potties that are blown over. When you have something that's attached to a metal container that is stable and won't be blown over, you don't have to worry about when it gets windy or this or that. For me, the attraction is, 1, I'm able to get rid of my refuge. 2, my construction job site materials that I don't need. 3, that you got the dumpster that is connected to something solid that is enclosed that won't have the ability to be blown over or things like of that nature. That makes any sense?
Oh, that does. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, there is one other question, and I'm still trying to get to this is, Mr. Remy, for us part of our decision-making process is we have to determine if a company is fit to provide the service. Do you have any information, for us that, leads you to believe that Redbox Plus is fit to provide the service, fit to provide, to be a good business operator in your area?
Objection, hearsay.
Hold on.
I don't hear that. I don't understand the question.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, hold on, Mr. Remy. Hold on, Commissioner Field. What?
Objection for the record, hearsay.
I will wait to see what his response is. Go ahead, Mr. Remy.
I don't understand the question, so there is no real response I can give. I don't understand what she means.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Remy, I'm just trying to find out if you know anything about the business Redbox Plus that leads you to believe that they would be a credible business that would provide reliable service to you.
Be quite honest with you, I have not done that much research into it. So I don't know much more than I think that the idea of having a 2-in-1 combination in this town, let alone another service that can provide 2-in-1. I just think it's a great idea. So as far as any other information, I don't know. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they run their businesses. I don't know how they run their lives. But I think that in the day, every person deserves an opportunity to have something smart. And I think this is a smart idea.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Fielder. Additional questions for that, Vice Chair Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Remy, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be with us. I appreciate that. I know that that is, in fact, a sacrifice. Question, really only one, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but so correct me if I'm mischaracterizing what you had said, but I understood you to say that when L&L came into the service area, you found them to provide a more satisfactory level of service than Republic was providing. Is that what you'd indicated to us?
Correct. When I do call, don't have a problem getting a hold of somebody. When I need something, it's in the past has been, spot on. I'm not put on hold forever. And they also, like I said, they have everything from, residential trash to roll-offs.
Okay.
So I think
So-
having another, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. So has their once L&L now, has their once satisfactory service somehow become unsatisfactory?
No, I just think that we could use more services out here.
Okay, but you other than the porta potty option, you're not finding yourself unable to secure the service you need at this point. Is that a fair characterization?
You still don't understand the question. The only best way I can just describe it, and it just based on what I think the price points would be on a 2-in-1. I think finding something cheaper and more economical and easy to have 2-in-1 service is, I think that is something I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that's a little bit slightly cheaper, and I don't have to call, let's say, Little Stinker or TLC or some other porta potty company, and I got to call 2 or 3 different trash hauling companies when I can just get everything in one.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Additional questions from commissioners? Seeing none, recross.
Yes, Chairman, I have a few questions. Mr. Remy, can you still hear me?
Yep.
You testified that you were a painter, correct?
Correct.
And do you do anything else in the construction industry?
I do.
Okay.
Remodeling as well.
And what is your need for, in what business do you have a need for a 30-yard roll-off?
For what need?
Yeah, what do you use it for?
I use it for different options. One is for all the trash and things like that, meaning plastic, paper, things like that. Usually I have anywhere from 10 to 30 bags of trash per month. And then when I do the construction stuff, I have a lot of siding, board and bat, hardy boards. I got cutoffs from 2x4s, 2x6s, et cetera, drywall. Got drywall debris that when you frame out a house and then you drywall it, you got cutoffs from so you have a 12-foot wall and you got 16 feet. Well, you got extras that need to go in a dumpster. So it's just not my painting industry. It's also everything else I do on the remodeling portion of my business.
Okay. And you testified that you had called Republic a number of years ago and you were put on hold. When was the last time that you contacted Republic Services?
Well, I called, like, if you want to go back to several times, I've called when I moved here in 2006. I called in 2010. I called, I was doing work overseas when I got back in 2014. I called in 2014. And the last time I called was about a year ago, because I was moving from one shop to another shop and I was shopping roll-offs. And the one, like I said, I was put on hold, couldn't get a hold of them. So I just went with the next available roll-off company.
And the next available roll-off company was L&L Services, correct?
Correct.
And L&L Services is currently servicing your need for roll-off services, correct?
They have last year, correct? But I've been finding it's slightly hard to get them here and there. So I moved on to using builders, dumpsters. Like they have their pull dumpsters they take to the dump. So I've been using them lately. But if I had if I didn't have a hard time trying to get one quickly, then I would basically use another service if I could, if there was another availability in town, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And please state for me again the other service that you were using that was available to you.
What do you mean?
You said that sometimes when you cannot use L&L or you haven't used L&L, excuse me, just let me finish my question quickly. You stated that when you could not use L&L or did not use L&L, you used another service. What service were you referring to?
Never said a service. I would borrow my contractor's buddies' pull behind truck dumpsters. So in other words, they're just an open square box that we would fill up and then take it out to the dump.
Understood. You indicated in your in response to a question by the commissioners that you were looking for an option with a porta potty that would be better priced. You don't know what Redbox Plus proposes to offer in terms of pricing, do you?
I don't know what they would offer once they were established, but in the day, I would assume that it'd be competitive, if not cheaper than what everybody else is doing in town.
That's an assumption that you're making based on no information you've received from Redbox Plus, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Remy, do you know whether the PSC regulates porta potties?
Do not know.
And you've been provided no information about Redbox Plus's finances, have you?
I have not.
And you have no information about the individuals who will be operating Redbox Plus in Montana, whether they have experience in the garbage hauling industry, do you?
Do not know that information.
And you don't have any information specific to this business about how they intend to operate their business in Montana, do you?
I do not.
No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Jetty, you want to redirect?
I cannot hear anything.
I had my microphone off. Tell the commissioners again, what makes Redbox Plus so appealing to you, the combination between the roll-offs and the porta potties. Why is that so important in your business?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
Well, like I said, I mean, at the end of the day, there's times that, for instance, like I said, I've rented porta potties many times and can't get them serviced correctly, or two, the pricing isn't just what I need. There's different pricings in the porta potties. In my personal belief, I believe that if there was a porta potty and roll off combination in one, that it would benefit as far as pricing goes for me, that it would be probably more economically efficient to me than trying to rent one thing for one person, one thing for another person. And then if they're offering a porta potty and a roll off in one, you're getting two services. You're getting your stuff dumped and you're getting your porta potty cleaned at the same time.
Thank you, sir. And in your experience, when new providers come into the area, do they generally charge more than the existing providers, or do they generally charge less than the existing providers?
Objection, Foundation.
I am going to overrule that. I believe that he probably has, through his business, layman's knowledge of pricing in the market. Go ahead, Mr. Jetty.
Thank you. Did you understand that question?
If you can repeat it, be cool.
You bet. In your experience, when new providers come in, say when L&L came in, do they generally provide services that are more expensive than the existing providers? Or in your experience, when new providers come in, do they generally come in and provide a more competitive price than the existing providers?
Objection,
more
I'm just going to
competitive.
renew it for the record because he testified that he's never used Republic.
So noted on your objection. I think this is a general question about participants in the market, not Republic
Thank you, sir.
specifically. Go ahead, Mr. Emmy.
At the end of the day, I've known other people that have used Republic, and I've asked their price quotes, what they're paying, and then when I got one, say from L&L, it was slightly cheaper than Republic. I personally did not rent from them because I cannot get through, but I know other people that have. And when L&L came in, they were competitive, not a little bit cheaper.
Thank you, sir. No further questions.
All right. What would you like to do with this witness, Mr. Jetty? Would you like to excuse him or temporarily excuse him?
If we could temporarily excuse him, that would be
Okay.
preferred.
Well, Mr. Remy, I know you're busy today, and I thank you for your time and participating. If you would stay by your phone, I would appreciate it.
I will do.
Thank you, Mr. Remy. Chairman needs to take a break, frankly. So let's go into recess here for about 10 minutes. We'll reconvene at 10:45 a.m. We will go off the record at this point in time. Commissioner Fielder, you still on?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes.
Okay. Time is now 10:46 a.m. I call this hearing back on the record. Where we left off was Mr. Jetty was on his case in chief. Mr. Jetty, you may proceed to call your next witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May we please call Seth Thorson?
All right. Is Mr. Thorson on the remote?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Okay, very good, Mr. Thorson. Thank you for joining us today. All right, so I'm going to have you raise your right hand and I will swear you are in. Do you swear, Mr. Thorson, that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, can you state and spell your name for the record, Mr. Thorson?
It's Seth, S-E-T-H, Thorson, T-H-O-R-S-O-N.
Thank you, Mr. Jetty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Seth. Mark Jetty here.
Good morning.
Why don't we just start with a little bit of your personal background? Tell us where you live, what you do for a living.
I live in Bozeman, Montana. I'm a independent paint contractor.
Okay. And have you heard about the application Redbox Plus has submitted to the PSC?
I have.
And how would you use the services that they have applied for?
So for me personally, I have I'm just vastly involved in the community as far as people that need to use it. For me personally, small projects, paint projects. And then for our shop, we have a small shop as well.
Okay. And so why do you believe that the existing providers are not meeting that need?
Just kind of where we're at as a community here. I'm born and raised in Montana. We have so much going on, and there's a lot of contractors across this valley that are in need of help. There for a long time, Republic was the only option. Now we have L&L, and with the option of what Redbox offered, I'm a huge believer and a huge fan of what they bring as a whole. That's a step above both what we have now. There's a lot to like about everything that they have.
And if their application is approved, Redbox Plus would be fairly new in the area. Do you have any concerns about their fitness as a carrier, or do you think they would be able to provide the services that you're looking for?
Objection, Foundation.
I am going to sustain that. You might want to ask a foundational question of Mr. Thorson of what he knows about their business.
Okay. Seth, what do you know about the Redbox business?
So, I mean, just there's a lot that they offer, I guess, just as far as how they're powder coated, right? L&L and Republic have powder coating. Haven't seen it here. Bathrooms, huge part of what they offer. I think it's going to be huge. No other company supplies what they supply. I think that's the biggest thing, and that's what I see in them that kind of keeps me excited about the opportunity. And I think this valley needs it. I've talked to multiple contractors in this valley that are very frustrated with the garbage situation on that end. So it's not just me. I could probably name 15 contractors that I could tell you off the end of my tongue here that would be highly excited to have another supplier of roll-offs.
Thank you, sir. And so if the PSC approves Redbox Plus's application today, they would be the new kid on the block, the new provider in the area. Do you have any concerns about them being new and not having experience in that area?
Objection Foundation.
Overruled. Please proceed.
No, I don't. Like I said, I think there's a lot of people in this valley with as much construction as we have. I mean, there's guys with actual subdivisions that are going in that would want to go that way for both Porta Johns and garbage. And with talking with Redbox officials, I mean, it's one of the largest privately.
Objection, we're just getting the hearsay now.
I will sustain that portion of the discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Jetty.
Mr. Thorson, your experience, have you ever been working on a project where time is of the essence?
Did you mute your mic?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Have you ever had a project or been in a position where time is of the essence, where you needed a roll-off or you needed junk removal in a timely fashion, where you couldn't afford to wait around for one of the existing providers to get back to you?
I've had multiple ones. So I have a cabin and we've re-roofed it. We've ripped the siding off. We've actually tore one completely down. Couldn't get any services there because of where it was at, and the availability of dumpsters. So with that being said, you're basically pretty limited on what you can do.
And based on your experience in the area and what you have heard from Redbox, do you believe they are fit to provide services in your area?
Objection Foundation.
I'm going to overrule that. Go ahead and answer that question, Mr. Thorson.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's exciting about what they're bringing is that's kind of what they pride themselves on. And that's what we need. And that's essentially what they're trying to bring. And I think that's really important to have.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. No further questions at this time.
Okay. Cross.
Yes, please. Mr. Thorson, can you describe what services you're currently receiving in terms of roll-off services?
I don't have any roll-off services.
And so you have no need for a roll-off container of a 30-yard, 20-yard, or 10-yard roll-off container right now, do you?
I do not.
Have you ever received services from Republic?
I have not.
Have you ever received services from L&L?
I have.
And have you ever received services from the municipal haulers?
No.
Were your services from L&L residential services?
No, they're commercial.
And did you receive a roll-off from L&L?
No.
Do you know what services Redbox Plus is proposing to offer?
Yes, they're proposing to offer the 10-yard, the 20-yard, 30-yard. And
Right,
then
and
they
that's-
have the 40. Sorry, go ahead with the.
I did not mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I can't see your face, and so it's hard for me to know when you're done talking. So please
Oh.
finish.
Sorry. Yeah, so they got the 40s as well as with the Porta Johns.
Okay. And so to be clear, you have no need for any of those services, correct?
At the time, when they start up, I'm going to take a 10-yard with a Porta John.
You currently have no need, and you've currently not sought to have that need fulfilled by any other hauler in the community, have you?
I have. So I've used L&L for they offer a 3-yard.
You have never used L&L for a 10-yard service. have
Objection
you?
asked and answered.
I'll overrule that, but you are walking repetitive line here. So go ahead and answer that question if you can, Mr. Thorson.
Yep. No, I've never used a 10-yard, but I'm gonna eventually get into a bigger trash service. Correct.
And when do you intend to get into a bigger trash service?
It's depending on when Red Box is available.
So what will you use that service for? What part of your business do you not need it for now, but you anticipate a need in the future?
Like I said, the Porta John, L&L and Republic don't offer that. So I want both. That's kind of where I'm at with it. 10 yards could be pushing it. Instead of having L&L pick up every week to 2 weeks, I might not get picked up but once a month.
And do you know whether the PSC regulates porta potties, or I believe you've referred to them as porta johns?
Yeah, porta potties, sorry.
Do you know whether the Public Service Commission, who you're testifying before today, regulates porta potties?
I don't know the answer to that.
Mr. Thorson, you are an employee at Wholesale Painters, correct?
No.
Have you ever worked for Wholesale Painters?
Yes.
Okay. And in what role did you work at Wholesale Painters LLC?
I subcontracted painting contracts with them.
You were the business development manager at Wholesale Painting LLC, weren't you?
No.
So I would represent to you that that is what you are indicated on the Wholesale Painting LLC website. You would tell me that that's inaccurate?
Yes.
Yes, but I would like to show the witness a document for purposes of impeaching him, but obviously he's not physically in the room with us.
I think that I think he's answered the question and that you asked whether or not, as represented on their website, whether he has that title.
Okay. Yeah. And while you were at Wholesale Painting, you understand that Shad M. Darafield is the Chief Executive Officer of Wholesale Painting, correct?
Correct.
And you understand that Connor Darafield is the Chief Operating Officer of Wholesale Painting, correct?
Correct.
And you understand that Carson Darafield is the Chief Financial Officer of Wholesale Painting, correct?
Correct.
And each of those individuals is associated with Darafield Investments LLC, correct?
Correct.
And you understand that Redbox Plus is also an investment business of Darafield Investments LLC, correct?
Correct.
And so you were employed at one time by the Darafields, correct?
I'm part of Deerfield Investments.
Sorry, I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but that's who I'm referring to.
Yep. But yeah, Deerfield Investments, you asked me to wholesale painting. Eventually I will fill a spot there. I am not part of wholesale painting.
So currently, are you the business development manager of Deerfield Investments LLC?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
No problem. Currently, are you the business development manager of Deerfield Investments LLC?
I don't really know for sure how to answer that. I mean, I'm an independent contractor right now for Deerfield Investments.
Okay. And Deerfield Investments, that's the owner of Redbox Plus, correct?
I mean, I don't believe he owns Redbox.
Has Deerfield Investments invested into Redbox Plus in Montana?
Yes. It's a franchise.
And so you have an interest in, as being a contractor of Deerfield Investments, you have an interest that Redbox Plus receive a permit in this proceeding, correct?
Absolutely.
Do you know when the Deerfields moved to Montana from California?
I do not.
Do you know whether Mr. Shad Deerfield has ever been a provider in the garbage pickup and disposal business?
I do not.
And you don't have any information about the price points that Redbox Plus will offer consumers in Gallatin, Park, and Madison counties, do you?
I guess I don't know how to answer 100%. I don't know if they know 100% of them, but they're going to be competitive, if not less, is what I've been told. But to answer your question, I don't think until they get their services that they will have all that 100%.
And you don't know information about the financial resources of Redbox Plus or the working capital of Redbox Plus, do you?
I do not.
And you don't have information related to Redbox Plus's business plan, do you?
No.
And you don't have information about what equipment Redbox Plus has acquired, have you?
No.
You were asked to testify here today by someone, correct?
Yes.
And did Mr. Deerfield ask you to do that?
No, Mr. Lucas Hamilton.
And do you understand who Mr. Lucas Hamilton is?
I do not.
So I'd like to voir dire this witness at this point in time.
Sure.
Mr. Thorson, just so we have a clean record here. So Mr. Hamilton is an attorney of the Montana Public Service Commission. I think what council was asking you was, had you been asked by any party related to Redbox to participate in today's hearing?
Yes.
Okay, and then who was that?
Boy, so I've gotten a few emails just from the affidavit. Potentially it could be Shad or the attorney.
All right,
Or
and so
Carson.
So to clarify, Mr. Lucas Hamilton did not ask you to be a participant today. He was just helping you get set up to participate today, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You
All
may
right.
proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Chairman, for clearing that up. I
Sorry for the
suspected that was the case.
confusion.
Mr. Thorson, how did you find out about the application of Redbox Plus?
I inquired about getting Redbox and they weren't available yet.
And why did you inquire about getting Redbox Plus?
Because I
Excuse me,
wanted-
strike that. How did you know what Redbox Plus was?
He shared just the basically what they were made out of, how they were going to run their business, and what the Porta Johns being attached to the garbage is what drew me in.
And you said he shared. Who is he?
Carson
And what's Carson's last name?
Deerfield.
And who asked you to fill out an affidavit?
Hoofda. I believe it was Carson or Shad.
How would you describe your relationship to the Deerfields?
They are good friends.
Do you know how many businesses Deerfield Investments owns and operates in the Gallatin County area?
I do not.
Do you know if it's more than one?
I mean, I don't know. No, sorry.
I'm just checking my notes. One moment, please. I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you. At this point in time, I'll open it up to questions from commissioners for this witness. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Torson, I love that name, by the way.
Thank
It sounds as it's a powerful name. I imagine you're good with a hammer as well. So the implication that I seem to draw from the questioning that you were just asked was whether or not your favorable impression of the application of Redbox has anything that there was any pressure put on you by the Deerfields. Is that are you supporting this on the merits or simply as a favor to a friend?
Yeah, it's just on the merit of me wanting their services.
Thank you.
Also, just the people that I've talked to in the valley here, there's just a lot of excitement of what they have to offer.
Additional questions from commissioners. Vice Chair Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one, Mr. Thorson, thanks for taking the time to be with us. Since L&L has begun offering services in the service area along with Republic, have you personally experienced an inability to receive desired service from either Republic or L&L?
So, I mean, I've had conversations with L&L just within the last week. It's kind of a tough one, I guess. I just feel like, I mean, I snapped a picture of a 13-minute conversation of being on hold with them, and they couldn't answer when they could give me a roll off. The girl had stated that they are extremely busy and overworked. And as far as that goes, I didn't get an exact time of when it was going to be. A few days at the earliest if they could get it.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chair.
That was L&L that was unable to give you an indication of when a roll-off could be delivered to your job site?
That was Republic.
Republic. Did you have a similar experience, or did you seek alternative service from L&L in light of Republic's inability to meet your need?
Yep. And so L&L's, and I think what happens is they go through, there's different with size yardage, different dumpsters of need. I think between the two, sometimes neither of them have it. Sometimes they both do or don't.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman, one more.
Go ahead.
So to help me out, to give me a clear understanding, did you or did you not ultimately receive the service that you required from L&L then, or were you left high and dry without that requirement being met by either of the providers in the service territory? And I don't mean to be pointed here, but it's a fairly simple question. Either your needs were met by one of those two providers, or they were not, and that's the question I'm trying to get to.
They were not.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Additional questions from commissioners? Commissioner Fielder?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Fielder. Additional questions? Recross?
Yes, Chairman, please. Mr. Thorson, while I was cross-examining you moments ago, do you recall testifying that you had never had a need for a roll-off container yet?
Yep.
Okay. And so when you called Republic Services, you did not have a need for a roll-off container, correct?
Nope.
When you say, I think the way that you're answering the question, it's probably a poor question on my part because of the double negative, but it's correct. You would agree with me that when you called Republic Services, you had no need for a roll-off container. Do you agree with that statement?
Correct.
I don't have further questions.
Thank you. Redirect?
Yes, Chairman, thank you. So Seth, when you called Republic and you didn't receive the services you want, are you speaking more about roll-off services in general or the customer service that Republic provides?
Both. I just, out of curiosity of what the industry offers, I was curious for myself to see what they had, what they could offer, the service they have.
And just to clarify, although you do not need a roll-off container on this particular day, you can foresee at some point in the future when you may need roll-off services?
Correct.
Okay. And how long have you been working in that area?
I've worked in this, like, what do you mean? As far as where my shop is, or
Just as,
in the valley? I've been working in the valley for 16 years.
okay, that's good. So based on your experience working in the Valley for 16 years in the construction industry and your experience with Republican L&L services, in general, has your experience been when a new provider comes in, do they generally provide services at a lower rate or do they generally provide services at a more competitive rate?
Objection, Foundation.
So I'm going to overrule this on the same basis I did when this was objected to. So Mr. Thorson, you can answer this question as a general matter unless you know what the prices that are being offered are by the various parties.
Okay. Yeah. I think I answered earlier. I don't believe they were expected to be competitive or lower, was what I was told by Redbox.
And in your experience in the past, has that generally been the way it generally works? When new providers come in, they provide services at a lower rate than the existing providers?
Objection, there's no time period. The question's vague. We don't know when he's referencing.
So do you want to?
I'm just asking about his experience as a provider in that area, as a potential customer in that area.
For the last 16 years?
Exactly.
You can answer that question, Mr. Thorson.
Yes.
Thank you.
No further questions.
Okay. Mr. Thorson, do you want, Mr. Jetty, do you want to temporarily excuse this witness?
Yes, please.
All right, Mr. Thorson, you are temporarily excused. We had asked you to sort of stand by, if you would, in case there's additional questions for you at some point, and we thank you for your participation today. All right, Mr. Jetty, you want to call your next witness?
Yes, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, when you're excusing is when you said stand by, are you suggesting these people stay connected or that they stay available, like near their phone?
I would suggest that they stay connected at this point in time.
I mean, if this hearing goes for 2 days, that's a lot to ask of them. I think, is there some other accommodation that could be made?
Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. This is a good time to have that discussion. Do you have, Mr. Jetty, do you have Mr. Thorson's phone number if we need to call him back or some way to contact him?
Yes, we can find another way to contact him
Okay,
at the
all right.
appropriate time.
So, Mr. Thorson, you're temporarily excused at this point in time, but you should be available to be called back. But at this point in time, you don't need to stay online. And he might be gone
Thank
anyway.
you.
All right. Call your next witness, Mr. Jetty. Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Redbox Plus next calls Danny Thorson.
Can I use this? Does this work? Join.
Yes, we can hear you, Ms. Thorson. Do you have video by any chance where we could see you?
Got it?
Ah, there you go. There you are.
Perfect.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so Ms. Thorson, now that we can see you, can you raise your right hand?
Yep.
Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Can you state and spell your name for the record, please?
Yep. Danny Thorson, DANITHORSON.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jetty, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Danny.
Hi.
So, hi. We'll try to get through this as best we can here. Please, let's just start with a little bit. Tell us about yourself. Where do you live and what do you do and how might you use Redbox Plus services?
I live in Bozeman, Montana, and I'm a cosmetologist. I am hoping to open my own spa, hopefully in the next year. So I would use probably the smaller Redbox services, the 10 to 20 yards. And yeah, I'm currently not looking to use a Redbox at this exact moment. I'm 9 months pregnant. I'm about to have a baby, so not working at this time.
But as your business gets up and running, you can foresee a need for those services. And what in particular interests you in those services?
Mainly for me personally is cleanliness and the aesthetic portion of Redbox. I've noticed that Republic and even L&L have a lot of wear, I guess, on their products, and aesthetically the outside of a spa can't necessarily have that.
Thank you. And so do you have any concerns about Redbox Plus?
I'm going to object to that, Mr. Chairman, as a vague, ambiguous question that will, who knows where it may lead.
So, Mr. Mercer, are you going to cross-examine this witness?
I intend to, but.
All
yes.
right. So I'm going to hold you now to being the person that cross-examines this witness since you raised the objection. And I'm going to sustain that objection. So can you rephrase, Mr. Jetty?
Yes, the question is, if other providers provide similar services in the area and Redbox can provide a similar service in the area, is there anything in particular that would make you use Redbox Plus rather than the others?
I guess I would just say aesthetic. Like, honestly, I would choose them because it looks nicer. Hopefully customer service would be better. I do have a personal experience with Republic. I don't know if I should
Will you
say
share that with the commission? Sure, please
Okay.
do.
They had slowly increased my bill without even contacting me. And I don't know why. I had a friend reach out to me and tell me that L&L was way cheaper. So I contacted Republic, and they did actually lower my bill after waiting for 30 minutes, which I have 4 kids already. I can't sit on the phone that long. But then recently they have increased my bill again with no explanation. So I'll have to call and
Chairman, I'm going
contact.
to object to this. It has
Hold
nothing
on,
to
Ms.
do with
Thorson.
the application. She obviously doesn't have commercial service at this point.
How
Right.
do you respond to that, Mr.? Hold on, please. Mr. Jetty, how do you respond to that?
We're trying to establish the lack of customer service and the addition, the benefit that the Bozeman community would gain from a provider who provides better customer service to their clients, both commercial, as she has indicated that she is establishing a spa.
Mr. Mercer, do you want to voir dire this witness as to what experience she has with Republic then? If that's your objection.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Thorson, it's true, isn't it, that you've never acquired commercial services from Republic? You've never acquired a roll-off or anything from Republic that would speak to what Redbox is seeking through this application?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jetty. You're free to ask your questions about new service, etc.
So as you established your new business,
Yes.
what are your priorities for service?
Mr. Chairman,
establishing-
I'm going to object that this is a hypothetical. The business doesn't exist. The witness has no present need. The future need is totally predicated upon a business plan that we know nothing about. And I think the hypothetical should not be allowed.
Mr. Jetty.
She has just testified that she is planning on starting a business, and that's why she is searching for these services, is because she is planning on starting a business that will require the services, the exact services we're talking about today.
All right, so I'm going to overrule your objection. I'd suggest then you lay some foundation as to what business she's seeking to start and how she could use the services.
Okay. And I'll try to avoid an objection for asked and answered because we've been over it several times and I can anticipate it, but
All right,
we'll do our
please
best.
proceed. Noted.
Okay. So you were speaking earlier about possibly starting a business in your community. Can you tell us a little bit about the business that you are contemplating starting in the near future?
I'm hoping to start a spa.
Okay. And how would, as you start a spa, how would you use Redbox Plus services or the services of another possible
Well,
competing provider?
Depending on where I start the spa, I'm going to need services for construction. And then I will also need services after with disposal of spa garbage and chemicals and stuff in that nature from the spa.
And is there anything in particular that attracts you to Redbox Plus's services over services provided by the existing providers?
I think aesthetically it attracts me. They're all power coated and clean and new, and just like the spa would be. Other than that,
What has your experience been like with customer service?
with
Objection
Redbox.
vague. Mr. Chairman, I don't know who we're talking about, what entity we're talking about, what time period we're talking about. So would object based upon scope and vagueness and ambiguity of the question.
And I'll sustain that. Go ahead, Mr. Jenny.
No further questions.
All right, Mr. Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Thorson, good afternoon. I want to start off by trying to understand where your service, your spa service would be located. Which of these counties are you looking to in terms of trying to set up your business?
Gallatin.
Okay. And have you ever been in the spa business?
Yep. I've worked in the cosmetology industry for over 10 years.
Do you know you're in the business right now, right?
I am.
What do you do in the cosmetology business currently?
I am a hairdresser.
All right. And are there spa services that are offered as part of the current cosmetology business that you're in?
Well, I'm not working right now. I'm like literally 2 weeks out from having a baby.
Yeah, well, congratulations and good luck with that. When did you stop working as a cosmetologist? Was that before the pregnancy or during the pregnancy?
Before the pregnancy.
When was the last time you were a provider in the cosmetology industry?
Like when did I last work in a salon, or when, because my license is still up to date and I still do hair. I do contracted work.
All right. Do you do that out of your house?
No, through various spas. I've worked for Indira. I've worked for Indulgence. I just do contracted things as of right now.
All right. Maybe I misunderstood. I got the impression that you had stopped serving in the cosmetology industry at the time, sometime before your pregnancy. Did I misunderstand that?
Yeah. So in the last year, I haven't done any contracted work since being pregnant. I haven't done any since probably last summer.
Okay. And so let me just take you back to that time period. Did any of the entities that you worked for use roll-off boxes provided by L&L or Republic?
Yes.
Okay. And what sizes did they use?
I don't know. I'm not positive.
Okay. And did you ever see a point in time when the roll-off boxes were not available to those businesses that you worked for?
I'm not sure.
You don't have any idea, as you sit here today, whether there was any unmet need in terms of roll-off box services for those businesses, do you?
No.
Okay. And we've established you don't have a present need for this service, correct?
Yes.
All right. How'd you find out about the application Redbox, the two applications that Redbox has filed with the Public Service Commission for authorization to offer services?
Through my husband.
Okay. Now you filled out an affidavit in this case, didn't you?
I did.
Who asked you to fill out the affidavit?
My husband.
Right. Did he tell you what to put on the affidavit?
He did not.
Okay. What do you understand about your husband's relationship to Dairyfield Investments?
I know that they contract work to each other.
Okay. Do you understand that he has got an official role with the business?
He does not receive checks from them, so I don't know how official the role is, I guess.
Okay. Do you deny that he has a role with Dairyfield Investments?
Objection. This is a more proper question for her husband, not for Danny.
I am going to overrule that, but Mr. Mercer, I'm going to caution you that I presume what you're doing is trying to impeach this witness, but she may have limited knowledge about what her husband's business is, and I don't really want to go down this rabbit hole other than for you to establish what you believe is the relationship. Thank you, Mr. Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me approach it a little bit differently. Do you know Shad Dairyfield?
I do.
How long have you known him?
Maybe 4 months ish.
All right. And do you think your husband's relationship extends for a longer period with Mr. Dairyfield than 4 months?
I think so. Probably not very much longer, but
Right.
maybe.
Do you know Marcy Dairyfield?
I do not.
Okay. Do you know when the Dairyfields moved to Gallatin County from California?
Objection. What's the relevance?
Sustained.
All right. Have you ever seen a red box container other than on the website of Redbox?
I have not.
Okay. So the sum total of your understanding about the containers offered by Redbox are based upon what is on the Redbox website. Is that right?
Yes.
You have no idea how Redbox maintains those containers, do you?
Nope.
In your affidavit, you discuss customer service and cleanliness. And I want to quickly focus on that given some of what you've answered earlier. You have worked for businesses that have acquired roll-off boxes from either L&L and Republic, but you have been involved in none of the interactions on behalf of those businesses with Republic and L&L. Is that right?
I haven't, but my story was my personal experience with personal trash, nothing to do with roll-off boxes, I guess.
All right.
So my customer service was through my personal needs, I guess.
So my focus here is on the application, which is to offer roll-off services that are regulated by the Public Service Commission.
Right.
And I think is it in fact the case that you've had no interactions with either L&L or Republic about customer service for roll-off boxes in Park, Madison, or Gallatin counties?
Not for commercial. Correct.
All right.
But I'm assuming customer service is the same for personal trash and commercial.
You're assuming that. You have no basis for any such assumption, isn't that right?
Okay. Yep.
In the businesses that you worked in, I take it, were you a contractor for those businesses? You weren't an employee for in the cosmetology work that you were doing. Is that right?
Both. I've been an employee and I've been a booth runner.
Okay. And as you sit here today, do you have clarity in terms of who the provider of the roll-off services were, whether you were an employee or whether you were a contractor? Was it L&L or was it Republic?
Republic.
All right. are you familiar with, you said something about paychecks that were received and that you didn't recall seeing paychecks that were issued to your husband by Derifield Investments. Do you recall any?
Objection, Your Honor. We're back to the thing. We're back to the story where he's questioning her about her husband. Those are more appropriate questions for her husband.
Well, Mr. Chairman, she indicated that she hadn't seen any sort of compensation from Derifield Investments, and so she was questioning precisely what his role was. So I think I'm entitled to figure if she's aware of finances, I think I'm entitled to ask, try to establish what the relationship, the family relationship is with Derifield Investments, Derifield Real Estate, and what's the name of that? Wholesale Painters LLC.
So, Ms. Thorson,
Yeah.
do you have any relationship with any of the entities that were just named by Attorney Mercer there? Are you paid by?
I do not.
All right, then I'm going to sustain that objection on the basis that those questions are better directed to the party that would have that knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Thorson, can you just confirm that Seth Thorson is your husband?
Yes.
All right. I don't think I'm going to ask anything further at this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mercer. Questions from the commission? Questions for from the commission for this witness? Commissioner Fielder?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Fielder. All right, seeing no questions from the commission for this witness, recross, Mr. Mercer. Redirect.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just one quick clarification. Danny, although we recognize that being 2 weeks out from having your child, you're not looking for roll-off services on this particular day. But as a member of the business community in the Bozeman area, can you foresee a time in the future where you may need services provided by those included in Redbox Plus's application?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay. I presume this witness can be temporarily excused.
Yes, please.
Well, okay. Mrs. Larson, first, congratulations on your pregnancy. That's exciting. I extend my well wishes for that as well. I'm sure you heard the admonition that we gave to your husband. Please just be on standby if we need to reach you at this point in time, but you don't need to stay on the Zoom at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. All right, the time is now 11:39. Mr. Jetty, how many witnesses do you have left in your case in chief?
Well, based on the ruling this morning, 0.
Okay. All right. So you are done with your case in chief at this point in time?
As best I can, yes, sir.
I see John up there. Is he that first witness? Is he still?
Yeah, I was about to ask if I could be excused.
Yes, John, I'm sorry. I should have clarified that.
All right. Thank you guys so much. If you need me, I will be available all day by phone. I can
Thank
also
you, John.
rejoin Zoom if need to be.
Okay, thank you, John. I apologize for that. That's my fault.
It's okay. You guys have a great day.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Jetty, you're done with your case in chief at this point?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay. We've had a request for break for lunch at this point in time. So Mr. Mercer, let me ask you what your afternoon looks like. How many witnesses do you plan to present?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think we would start by moving for a directed verdict. And if that is not granted, we have at least 2 witnesses. And that's it.
Okay. So,
I'm sorry, let me just say no fewer than 2, no more than 4.
all right. Well, it sounds like we can get done today. I'm going to reserve having you make that motion on the directed verdict until you present your case in chief, and I will entertain it at that point in time. So, why don't we break till 1 o'clock? And then come back, and I think we can probably finish this hearing today, it sounds like. So why don't we go into recess? We will reconvene again at 1 o'clock here at the Bollinger Room, and we will go off the record at this point in time. Thank you.